You guys see my screen? You guys can see it?
Yeah, I can see it, Christian.
Okay,
Right.
so who wants to do introduction?
I guess I can. Right, so Argentina has just had an election, actually a first round election based on the series of results we have today. And looks like Sergio Massa is in the lead. He represents the Peronist wing of Argentinian politics, which is the people who represent the left wing of the Argentinian political spectrum, followed by libertarian newcomer Javier Milei. He is in second place, so he advocates for more liberty, or more right wing, extreme right wing politics. And third place is Patricia Bullrich. She's more the establishment right. She represents more of the establishment right wing of Argentinian politics. And fourth place is, I'm not sure, Juan Chiaretti. I'm not sure what his politics are. I wonder if either of you two could elaborate a little bit further on him.
So he was just like the former governor of Cordoba, like of this province. He was just like a former governor. He's just like on provincial stuff. He's like, he supports, he's a centrist and he supports like stances like states' rights and division of powers between the federal government and the state government. But he got fourth place. Like he was never going to make it.
Jeez.
So now let's talk about it. So these were shocking results, guys. Like freaking shocking. When I was looking at the election on Sunday, I could not believe the results. I was like, no way this happened. And remember that what I told you guys the other day, that I did not want a president from one party, the governor of the province of Buenos Aires, the biggest province, with another party, and then the capital of the city being governed by another party, because that means that you cannot govern with a strong fist. I mean, you cannot pass policy and implement that effectively in Argentina if you don't get those three things from the same party. Well, we got that. So far, it seems that even though Sergio Massa won the first round with 36.7%, I don't actually believe he will go up that much. So I actually, on the best interest for the Argentinian people would have been if Sergio Massa and Bullrich went to a second round, but that didn't happen. So it seems that Javier Milei is poised to become the next president of Argentina. Now, when we go to the governorship of the province of Buenos Aires, so here are the governorships that were like in place. Let's go with the biggest province, right? The province of the governorship of Buenos Aires. Incumbent governor, left-wing Axel Kicillof got re-elected with 45% of the vote. Nestor Grindetti from the main opposition, the center-right opposition, Together for Change, got destroyed in the province. That was shocking. But there's a reason why he got shocked, like he got destroyed by it. Look who's in third place. Carolina Píparo from Liberty Advances. So she got like 25%. So technically, if you add the center-right and the extreme right, you would have gotten 50% of the people voting against incumbent Governor Kicillof. But how it works in the province is by plurality. So whoever wins the most votes, even if it's not 50%, you win the governorship. And that's what happens. So I would like to introduce you to these things. This is what we call the Great Conurbano area of the province of Buenos Aires. So this is where majority of the people live. And these two counties, technically, Vicente Lopez and San Isidro, which are like technically center-right strongholds of Together for Change, look at this thing. So if you look at these things, like this arrow, it means it's going down. That means that he performed 9.7 points worse than on the primary elections. While Kicillof and United for Our Homeland, like the left wing, improved in all counties, even in counties that usually do not go for the left. More rural counties here, like Olavarria and Las Flores and Pioa. As you can see, like the incumbent governor, Axel Kicillof, performed very well in rural areas. And the reason is because Nestor Grindetti and Carolina Píparo split the vote. They split the opposition vote, which is why the incoming governor was able to get reelected. So if we see something, Kisilov got 45% in the province, right? But when we go to the presidential rates, Sergio Massa got 43. So there was like a split ticket. Some people voted for the governor of Kisilov and then voted for Javier Milei. They split the ballot a little bit for like 2-3 points. So right now, I can actually kind of predict that Javier Milei will be the next president, but it's official that Kisilov is getting reelected for sure. The results are in. He got 45%, 20 points of difference with Nestor Grindetti. He will become the next governor of the biggest province that there is. Now, let's go with the capital of the city. Here it is. The capital of the city was won by George Macri from the center-right party Together for Change. Because we can see here, he got 49.6%. He still performed worse than in the past elections, in the primary elections. He performed 7.9 points worse, like almost 8 points worse. In the past elections, both candidates from Together for Change got in total 55%. But since the primaries between Together in the Together Change Alliance were like so tight, they were so divisive that some people that voted for his opponent in the primary election did not support Jorge Macri. But at the end, he won the capital of the city. So the capital of the city will be controlled by the center-right opposition, Together for Change, and the province of Buenos Aires will be controlled by the incumbent government, Peronist left-wing, Axel Kicillof. He will get reelected again. So right there, we see that one party controls the main capital of the city, and another party controls the biggest province that there is. So we already saw both state elections. Now, if we go back to the presidential election, the map actually looks pretty different from how it looked first. Oh, let's see if they are like, oh, there it is. So one of the biggest changes here was these two provinces, the province of Corrientes. This province was won by Bullrich in the primary elections. But like I told you guys, those Larreta voters, remember that he won like 10% of the vote, went for Massa. And the reason is, remember that the center-right coalition, Together for Change, is composed by mainly two parties. So it's like a coalition, so to say. It's between the Pro party, which is like the more conservative faction, and then you get the radicals, the radicalism side of the party, of the coalition. And that's another party, and that's more centrist. So those centrist voters went for Larreta, but when Larreta didn't win, those voters went for Massa. And the reason is because there were very divisive primaries all over the country. So there were very divisive primaries in the presidential election, in the province of Buenos Aires, and the capital of the city. Like they were very, very divisive, very fought. And since the thing is, here in the United States, if we have two Republicans and one Republican prevails over the other one, then the one that loses is going to endorse the first one, right? That's how it's supposed to be. But that didn't happen this time around. And since that didn't happen this time around, the fact that the opposition got split in two and that Together for Change could not hold their own votes led for the incoming government with 150% inflation, 40% of poor people in the country, the worst scenario in Argentina ever. And the thing about him is that Sergio Massa is the current Minister of Economy in Argentina. Did you believe it? He's the Minister of Economy. The dollar there, like if any of us go to Argentina right now, we're rich. Because $1 here is like 1,000 pesos over there or more. We're rich over there. So he's to blame for a lot of the things that are going on. But at the same time, he has the power to do welfare programs. So what he did is he technically gave out money to people, like, toilet paper to people, stuff like that, to those like very poor areas of the country. And one of the main reasons why he did that well is not just because of the split in opposition between Javier Milei and Patricia Bullrich. Let's think about it. But Javier Milei technically got the same votes that he won in the primary election. In the primary election, he won with 30%. He got 30% again. So he did actually like almost the same. But Patricia Bullrich did so much worse without those Larreta voters. And the main reason why is in the province of Buenos Aires. Since Sergio Massa did such a good election in the biggest province that there is, that technically put him on the top. So here's how the results would go for the presidency, the governorship of Buenos Aires, and the capital. Now, Javier, as an Argentinian, would you like to give any reactions about the results?
I was surprised by Massa's victory because like I would have thought that like since his poor job as economic minister and seeing all this inflation going on in the country, people would like be taking note about Massa's performance and his relation as economic minister to all this inflation and economic strife in the country. But yet he wins 36.7% of the vote in the country. That's just like I don't know. I can't. I mean, I'm speaking as an outsider to the country because I'm not from the country, but like it's mind-boggling to see how this economic strife is connected to Massa, but he still gets 36.7% of the vote. Like that's just I can't fathom that.
Well, I think some potential reasons could be one, just the Perona stronghold. For example, they often give incentives to poor people, such as food, and they threaten to take away that food, stop giving that food supply to people if they don't vote Peronist. And also, Sergio Massa was proposing some more centrist economic policies that perhaps differed from President Alberto Fernandez's agenda. Perhaps try to distance himself from Fernandez.
Yeah, the argument against him, though, is that he's the current economic minister. He's saying all of these things that he will do if he wins the presidency. Economic reforms. But he's the current economic minister of Argentina, and he's not doing this stuff right now. What he did is, it's something that we call the silver plan. So the silver plan means you give a lot of bonuses, like working benefits. When it's election time, you just like spend so much money on those poor provinces, which are the ones usually in the north, as you can see. These are dang poor. Look, Sergio Massa won in a landslide. All the counties in Formosa. All the counties in Santiago de Estero. Most of the counties in Catamarca. And where is it? This one here. And even in La Rioja, it was a close one. But he was able to appeal to a lot of poor people saying, if I lose, you're going to lose all your benefits. You're going to lose Social Security. You're going to lose welfare. If the conservatives win, you're going to lose all those things. And then they said, oh, Javier Milei wants to privatize public education. He wants to privatize healthcare. He wants to get rid of Medicare, so to say. That sucks in Argentina because people cannot even have like the roofs in a lot of hospitals in Argentina. Like when it rains, you actually can see like the water dripping from the roof. The state is horrible. Like the government is so big in Argentina, and those people that are hardworking are technically maintaining alive those poor people. Like in Buenos Aires, people are like so angry about it. Because the majority of the people voted against Massa. The majority of people voted against Kicillof. But what was the difference? The division between the conservatives and the extreme conservatives is like when you see a division between the more establishment Republicans and the MAGA Republicans. If they made their own party, if they were divided, the Democrats would win by a plurality. So that's what technically happened here. Even if Sergio Massa did a disaster, there's crime is rising. He's pardoning so many criminals in the streets. So crime is rising. Inflation is going out of nowhere. People cannot buy meat. Argentina is well known by his meat. It's like Argentinian meat. Good meat. Meat there is like 2,000 pesos over there. People cannot afford meat. 2,000 pesos in Argentina. We could afford it. We can go there and with $1, with $2, we could afford it, right? But people that earn pesos in Argentina cannot afford to eat meat. They cannot afford to go to the supermarket and they just get like some like fruits, some rice, some beans, and that's about it. Because inflation is like going through a roof. Crime is going through a roof. And also, state institutions are like going down. I mean, what I mean is there are so many hospitals that are not able to perform the basic functions that they're supposed to because there's not enough money to build those hospitals. So all of this thing is happening, but still, Sergio Massa was able to, he's a very skilled politician. Of all the candidates that are over there, he's the one that has the most experience being a politician. He's the oldest one of all of them. He's the one that has the more time in politics. Javier Milei is an outsider, and Patricia Bullrich was a security minister during Macri in 2019. So he's the one that actually knows how to be like a really good public speaker and a good politician. he appealed to nationalism, so to say. He said, if I lose, then Javier Milei is going to Americanize Argentina. Our sovereignty is going to be lost if Javier Milei wins the election. So those were very persuadable messages. And at the end, the reason why Patricia Bullrich got into her place is because those like weak, like some sort of like very centrist vote of Sor Lareta chose Massa instead because they were angry at Patricia Bullrich because both of them kill each other to get the nomination. That divisive fight, those divisive primaries killed Together for Change. And tomorrow, I believe that Together for Change will decide who they will support, like in paper. So tomorrow will be interesting to see who they support between Massa and Milei. So, but the main reason is because of that. The conservative electorate got divided in two, and Sergio Massa simply appealed to his base, to the poor people. Like here, the poor people majority are in these areas: Malvinas, Argentinas, Hurlingham, Moron, and mostly like Avenada, Quilmes. That's a very poor area for sure. Like most people there are like, it's an expression, shitting in buckets. Like, you get a bucket for water. They're shitting in buckets. People are like out of the street. They're like, they don't even have a home. They're just like sleeping in the streets, shitting in buckets, and receiving government assistance. And they still voted for Massa. They don't want to change. What Peronism does, it doesn't just make you poor economically. It makes people believe that they cannot go out in life without assistance from the state. Therefore, they just keep voting for the same party because the same party is going to give them those resources. But the resources that the party gives them is just food, like food stamps and stuff like that. I mean, it's not going to allow them to go up. It's going to maintain them poor. But that was a pretty good strategy. If Javier Milei didn't exist and those voters were translated to Patricia Bullrich or vice versa, if Bullrich voters go with Milei, that's like 54% of the vote. But since the conservative electorate got divided in two, with a simple plurality, Sergio Massa was able to do a big surprise. That doesn't make him the president, though. Because in Argentina, for the presidential election, you have to get 50% plus one. None of the candidates got 50% plus one. So there will be a second round in November 14th, I believe. So now, talking about economic strategies, like Andrew, you mentioned like his economic policies, right, that he was proposing. The thing is, the government is not, even if he wanted to introduce those policies, that means just like spending more money. I mean, what he wants to do he cannot be done because it won't pass through Congress either way. So he's just like giving these speeches, but tragically plurality of the people believe in him. And that was very shocking because in the primary elections, he got third place. And now in the first round, he gets in first place. So what happened in between? Well, in between, he passed like some sort of like reconciliation budget here in the United States, like spending bills that technically gave assistance and money to poor people, mostly look at the states that he won. These areas, the ones in purple, are usually the ones that are more industrialized. You get more industry, more companies. Here, this what we call the deep north, is like so poor. And the province of Buenos Aires, the conurbano area, is so poor. And the majority of the people live in this area. So that's one of the many reasons why Sergio Massa was able to shock the nation and win first place. Now the question becomes, Javier Milei attacked Patricia Bullrich a lot. So the question becomes, where would these 6 million voters, this 24% of the vote, go to? Would they even abstain? Because some people are saying, oh, I'm not voting. I voted for Patricia Bullrich. She didn't win. I'm not voting. I'm just going to vote in blank. So what do you guys think is going to happen for the second round in November 14th? Let's start with Javi.
Regarding the next round, I would think that so if we go to this with the scenario that Bullrich voters stay home, then in that case, Massa would win over Milei because the 23.8% just goes out the window. It's not added to any candidate. But because we know that the Bullrich voters, they're not going to go with Massa because it's like if a conservative in America decides to vote for a liberal Democrat in the United States, that's inconceivable practically. So, but then if Milei has been attacking Bullrich, then that's not going to garner much sympathy with the Juntos para el Cambio voters. So the most likely is that they abstain or they vote Milei because Milei is, I guess, better for them than Massa would be. But then also, I just wanted to kind of add a few things that the like Republican proposal when Macri was in power. I guess the economy was managed a little bit better. I wouldn't say it's like perfect, but the Republican proposal has been better at the economy than but it kind of reinforces that like economic change is not really going to get anywhere with Massa. So in the Peronist party, so it's not really much is going to change. It's just kind of like a political machine that like the Democrats used to have in like the 1800s. That's kind of it.
So
Well, I can't.
what are your reactions, Andrew?
Thank you, Christian. So yeah, kind of like yeah. So the Peronists are indeed acting a bit like Tammany Hall did back in the day. And do you want to note that Argentina, for the most part, is generally gone for Peronist candidate, has generally been led by a Peronist government. That may have some correlations to how it's performed economically in the past. And as for the Milei and Bullrich voters, it'll be interesting to see if Javier Milei will make any concessions to Bullrich voters. For example, will he tone it down on his most extreme policies? He may not do so out loud, but will he quietly forgo those policies? That will be very interesting to see.
Oh, and I have to show you where is it? So remember the deputies. So technically the lower house, the House of Representatives also got you also voted for that. So now I'm going to show you guys the results of the federal House of Representatives in Argentina. So you see this, right? Like this little donut, half donut. So at the end, this is what it means. After the election happened, the current government, the Peronists, will hold 109 seats. Nobody gets a majority. So in order to get a majority, you need 118 to get a majority in the Argentina lower house. No, 121 seats to control and get a majority. In this case, nobody got a majority, as we can see. So I believe that the biggest scenario that could happen is that Together for Change and Liberty advances. So the Bullrich and Milei deputies will join together and build like a coalition government in the lower house. That's pretty likely. Because technically the only opposition, the only left-wing party right now is this one, United for a Homeland, the Peronist, and they will hold 109 seats. Oh, you guys there? Did we already spend our 40 minutes? No way. We did?
So because I just started, it shouldn't have like ended already.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh no, your audio was off. Yeah, for a little bit. I wonder why Andrew left.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The good thing though is that we're still recording.
Yeah.
So how much time do we have technically?
It's not telling me.
Okay, so then I'm just going to explain like what happened in the lower chamber and in the Senate in Argentina. So in the lower chamber, the Peronists got 109 seats, and the main conservative opposition got 93, and Milei's party got 38 seats. So if we unite both numbers, I believe you get a majority. So it would be like a coalition government in the lower house. Now, if we go to the upper house, the Senate, things look a little bit different. In the Senate, actually, the Peronists did better. You need 36 seats to get a majority. The Peronists got 34, so they're like this close. They were 2 seats short to get a majority in the Senate. But Together for Change and Liberty advances, if you unite together, you get 32. And then this like province, like these independent voters, these independent senators over there, would technically decide who gets the majority. But I believe that at the end, the opposition will get the majority over the incumbent government. Because the incumbent government doesn't have any allies in the Senate. They just hold their own seats. Still, there's going to be a close Senate to pass laws in the federal level. And lastly, if we go here, where is it? If we go now to who holds more governorships, here it is. So this is the, well, wait. I'm going to show you guys the last thing is who holds the most more governorships as of right now, because governors are important. Provinciales 2023. Okay, so when we go here, okay, this map. Here it is. So the things in yellow mean the provinces in yellow means those provinces controlled by Together for Change. So by Juntos por el Cambio, they control those in yellow. So in the end, they control 9. And here's the number. 9 for Together for Change. And remember, Together for Change is a coalition of parties. So here are the parties, the United Civic Radical, the PRO, and this one are like 2 other parties that are also like together with the main opposition. The Peronist gets to 8 seats, 8 governorships. So actually, Together for Change gets more governorships than the Peronist party. First time that ever happens. Hacemos por nuestro país, like this one is from Juan Charretti. He's an independent, so he's like, and where it says provincial parties, that means it's just like independent governors. But the ones that are more partisan are between United for Our Homeland and Together for Change. So these 2 coalitions are the biggest ones. Javier Milei didn't win a single governorship. A single one. He hasn't got any governorship. So he wins the presidency. He doesn't have any governorship. He doesn't have the province of Buenos Aires, and he doesn't have the city of Buenos Aires. The PRO, the United for Change, Juntos por el Cambio, won, and here we can see it, the city of Buenos Aires. The Peronists won the province of Buenos Aires. And it seems as of right now that Milei will win the second round. Because the only reason why Massa got first place is because Milei and Burrich divided and split it up, the opposition vote. But in a second round, where everybody that hates Massa and hates this government and outdoors horrible services and the corruption and inflation, people are not able to buy meat anymore. Like, that's crazy. People cannot even go out of the country right now. They cannot afford to leave the country. So if an Argentina wants to come to the United States, he won't be able to, because guess what? He won't be able to pay the ticket to come to the United States. Yeah, an American can go to Argentina. So you and I, we could go to Argentina, and with some dollars, we would live like rich people over there. Like, literally, $5 could give us like a freaking like big biscuit, We would enjoy it to go to Argentina.
Oh, yeah, we'd be able to get like a big, like a penthouse in like Recoleta or in the, running on. But yeah, no, it's like, it's crazy. What I'm curious about is why Milei is so popular, but among voters, but his party is not doing well in governorships.
Because it's not the same thing to vote for the governorship and for a presidential election. Voters for governorships, local connections mean more. When I vote for my governor, I will vote because I know my governor. I know my person. It matters more locally, while in a national election, it's just like the profile. So yeah, people like the profile of Milei. But the thing is, his candidates for the governorships are not that popular compared to those of Juntos por el Cambio. So yeah, Juntos por el Cambio had very good, and again, I mean very good candidates for the governorships. But they mess up in the presidential election because they had a very divisive primary. So the Larreta voters didn't vote for Bullrich. They went for Massa just to piss off Bullrich.
That's kind of reminds me of like in 2016 and 2020, you had all these factions of the Democratic Party. You had the Bernie Sanders wing, which is on the left, and you had the more centrist Hillary voters. And so on Andrew's back end. But so you had all this division between the different factions, and because of that, like there's people who abstained from voting, like particularly the Bernie Sanders wing. They abstained from voting for Clinton because they wanted to piss her off because she wasn't left enough. But like it's kind of the same thing playing out with Larreta and Burrich voters, I feel.
Remember that there are 2 parties in Juntos por el Cambio, the PRO and this radicalism. Remember that? So the radicalism chose Larreta. The PRO chose Bullrich. Since Bullrich won and it was a very divisive primary, Larreta got angry and he didn't want Bullrich to win. Then, if he wasn't the president, then his own coalition is not going to win the election. So he technically told his voters, hey, don't choose her. Choose somebody else. And they chose Massa. He actually said that. So Larreta is the main antagonist and the main character that made the center-right candidate, Patricia Bullrich, get in third place. That means that Argentina next election is going to choose between two horrible evils. You want on one side, you have the current government that is doing horrible things. And on the other side, you have a crazy right-wing, extreme right outsider who doesn't know anything about politics because he has never been a politician, just running. So you have two extremes, technically, right now. That's the worst case scenario. And not just that, the province of Buenos Aires went from the Peronists, but the city of Buenos Aires went for Juntos por el Cambio, and now the presidency might go for Milei. So that's horrible. You cannot govern like that. We're having one party controlling the province, one party controlling the main city, capital, Recoleta, and now those areas, and then one party controlling the presidency. You cannot implement the law like that. I don't know what Milei will do if he wins, because if Milei wins, I'm not sure how he's going to deal with implementing the law if he has 0 governorships. Look at that. There's no purple in the governorships. He won't be able to implement his laws anywhere, technically. He will have to just sign executive orders forcing implementing his laws. So he will have to act with a strong fist because he has no support of any governor.
Then if nothing comes out of it, like nothing changes because of all this gridlock, then it could sort of bolster future populism and right-wing populism in that country in the next election when they come around. I just kind of think that's the inevitable thing that's going to happen if nothing's done because of all this gridlock and Milei is forced to use executive order.
Argentinians tend to have a tendency of going to dictatorships. Argentina has been governed by dictatorships a lot of times. I believe, 7, 11 times? 14 maybe? A lot of times they have chosen dictators because they get angry that the thing that I told you happens. One party controls the presidency, another party controls the province, another party controls the main city. Nothing gets done. People get angry and they choose a dictatorship. Somebody that goes out there and puts everything in this place. But those dictatorships were horrible. People realized that it sucked and they had to rebel against the dictatorship. But now it seems that it's going all over again. If Milei wins and he's not able to have a coalition with Juntos por el Cambio, he will have to act with executive orders and he will bolster populist ideas. But that's still better, tragically, that's still better than 4 more years of a socialist candidate from the left who is destroying the Argentinian economy. I mean, for me, it's awesome. If the 3 of us were to go to Argentina with the dollars that we have, we would be in the best hotel in Recoleta, We would enjoy ourselves. We would have some frete, some wine, Argentina wine, and some very good meat. So for us, it's awesome. For Americans, it's great. But for Argentinians, it sucks because they cannot even afford basic things because inflation is going through the roof. A single dollar of us, I believe, is worth 1,000 pesos or more there. When Macri left, $1 in Argentina was worth 40 pesos. When Alberto Fernandez came in, and now that he's almost out, he brought the dollar out, the value of the dollar all the way to 1,000 pesos. I mean, I believe that if the 3 of us were to unite dollars, we could even buy a home. That much. Yeah, for Americans, it's great, but Argentinians are very pissed off. Without the security, inflation, crime and corruption. We have a lot of narcos in the province of Buenos Aires. Narcos are people that sell drugs and stuff like that. Drug dealers in those very big provinces. But in the provinces that fare the worst are the ones controlled by the Peronist party. But the ones that have the most poor people are the ones that are controlled by the Peronists. Well, the ones that have the least amount of people, poor people, the ones where there's a little bit more middle class, is controlled by Juntos por el Cambio, which is why the city of Buenos Aires, the city, Recoleta in those areas, are controlled by Together for Change, Juntos por el Cambio, because there's more middle class over there. But yeah, this is a horrible scenario. I really hope that Bullrich was going to go into the second round because she's the only one that has the governorships to actually implement the laws. She has like 9 governorships. She would be able to implement the law in 9 states without using executive orders. If Milei wins, which honestly, at this point, is very likely that he will, and maybe I want him to win if Massa is the other option, Milei won't be able to implement any law other than using executive orders. And that's not right. I don't want my president just using executive orders and governing like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, and also we have like 2.5 minutes left. So
Last thoughts, and then you guys.
Sure. So first things first, I think it's important to note that Alberto Fernandez hasn't really had any plan. Yeah, he's known as a man without a plan. And it will be interesting to see if Sergio Massa, let's say he gets elected, will continue with that, or whether he's able to cement a plan based on the ideas he's proposing. And it will also be interesting to see if, let's say, Javier Milei wins, whether he'll be able to have a plan to govern. I know he's spouting out a bunch of ideas like let's adopt the dollar, etc. But does he have an actual plan for getting that passed? Does he have some idea on what coalitions he needs to form? If not, he'll be limited to executive orders, and even that's going to be quite difficult, and that's not going to sustain permanent change.
just if it leads to a dictatorship, that's not good. Because I mean, when my family left Argentina, they had a dictator who was like for president from 1968 to 1970. So when my family left there, it was in a really bad place. That's why they left. But like, this is just not good for the Argentinian people to have all this populism and dictator sentiment that's repeating itself all over again.
Yeah, but since that's what happens when you have a presidential system set in this way. Tragically, you have one province that has most 38% of the people in one province. That's the province of Buenos Aires. And then you get another province with 27% of the people. That's the city of Buenos Aires. So both provinces hold the majority of the people. So when you have that, both provinces have so much power over people. So maybe if the population were to be spread out, those provinces would not be that heavy. But since those provinces are like this, like the majority of the population lives in those two provinces, both of them matter a lot to implement policy. If Javier Milei wins, which honestly I hope he does, because the alternative is worse, he's going to have a hard time implementing the laws if he doesn't find compromise with Together for Change, which is...
I'm glad you enjoyed our video today on the Argentinian general election. And the next election that we'll be covering is the second round of the Argentinian election, which is taking place on November 19th, which is 3 days before the next election after that, which is the Netherlands general election. So keep an eye out for that video, and thanks for watching our videos on the elections of Argentina and the other countries we've covered thus far.